Hello and welcome to Technically Analytics. In this episode, we're doing another off-season profile and projection. This time, we're going with the NL Central. The NL Central has 5 teams like every other division, and we're going to start with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last year, the Pittsburgh Pirates they finished at 76 and 86, 16 games behind the first place Brewers. So the Pirates lineup is looking pretty decent these days. They did make some free agent moves. They brought in Rowdy Tellez and Yasmani Grandal. But starting at the top, they have O'Neill Cruz, Bryan Reynolds, Ke'Bryan Hayes, Andrew McCutchen, Jack Suwinski, Rowdy Tellez, Yasmani Grandal, Liover Pereira, and Joshua Palacios. So these guys they had a similar lineup to last year. They added Tellez and Grandal, like I just said, and I like their lineup. Actually, the top of their lineup, the first 5, even I would say 6 guys, I would say it's a good starting lineup. Like I really like what they've done with it over the years. They've developed these guys. I think if Cruz can stay healthy, he's going to be a star. Like he's like 6'7" or something like that. So pretty crazy. And then Reynolds and Hayes, they're going to give you good seasons, especially on defense. And McCutchen, obviously Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about that. Suwinski and Tellez, I mean, I'm expecting these guys to give you some average power, especially Suwinski. He can hit the ball pretty well. He had quite a few homers last year. And then, of course, for the rest of the line, I mean, Grandal, you'll see what he gives you. The White Sox, he's okay. He's not the best hitter in the world, but he's a good catcher. And then the other guys, the young guys, we'll see what happens. If they can have good seasons, career average seasons, then that's going to be good enough. So looking at the Pirates bench, they got Henry Davis, Connor Joe, Ji-hwan Bae, and Edward Alvarez. So I like their bench, actually. Connor Joe's pretty decent. He started for the Rockies like last year, up until last year when they traded him. Davis, young guy, he could be in contention to maybe get some reps in the outfield. And then Bae and Alvarez, they're going to be okay, I guess. I like it. It's not the worst bench I've seen, not the best. So the player I want to highlight is O'Neill Cruz. Like I said at the top, he's a 6'7" superstar. He's going to be a superstar shortstop. He has lots of power. He can hit the ball really well. Just keep in mind, in 2022, he played 87 games, 261 plate appearances, had 17 home runs. He had a 450 slug, a 320 WOBA, 105 runs, weighted runs created plus. So that was only 87 games too. So that was just like a taste he had there in 2022. And then he got hurt early in the season last year, and he kind of got his season cut short. Didn't do very much really. Only 9 games, so you can't really go off of that. But from what I saw in 2022, I'm gonna say that if he can have a really good season and stay healthy the full year, like his projections are showing here, you could see that he might do like, I mean, if he does 130 games, he could hit 25 home runs. I like that one. That line right there, steamer. 25 home runs, 68 RBIs. He has 251 average, 328 on base, 457 slug, 337 WOBA. I mean, that'd be a pretty decent season for him. I feel like that's what he should be aiming for, around 3 WAR. Like that sounds like a good level for him. And I really like this guy. Like he's gonna be a superstar someday. He's really tall. He has a lot of power. He's not your prototypical shortstop, but like. The guy could be one of the freakiest athlete shortstops ever to play. So, yeah, onto their pitching. They got Mitch Keller, Martin Perez, Marco Gonzalez, Luis Ortiz, Bailey Falter, and their rotation. And then in their bullpen, they have David Bednar, Adelis Chapman, Colin Holderman, Carmen. I'm not going to say his last name. I'm going to butcher it. You can see it on screen. Ryan Brucke, Dara Moreta, Josh Fleming, and Ronzi Contreras. Now, I like their top of their rotation. I think it's pretty decent. They added Perez and Gonzalez from the Rangers and the Mariners / Braves technically. And in the end, I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I could be out on Ortiz and Falter. They could be okay, but they could also be like crap. Like it kind of Falter. I know he was in Philly. I remember he never pitched particularly well against the Mets at least. So kind of out on him. But I really like Keller and I like Perez. I think those Keller just signed like a big extension for them. So I'm happy to see that. He's been good. Perez, he was okay with Texas. He did pretty good, and I guess he's hoping to repeat something similar. Probably stay a little more healthy, but if they can get good performances out of the top three, that's gonna be a good start for them. And then obviously, I think their bullpen might be the best part of their team, with Bednar at the back, Chapman, Holderman, and some of these other guys, Brocky, Moretta. Their bullpen's going to be one of the better bullpens in the league, I think. Like, I'm not sure we'll see where they ranked last year, but I think it's going to improve. Starting rotation, it might improve. The pitcher I want to talk about though is Martin Perez. So when we look at his stats, especially from like last year, you can see he did like decently okay. 141 innings, 10 wins, 4 losses. But most importantly, 4.45 ERA. He was way better in 2022, 2.89 ERA. And then you can see he kind of struggled with walks and homers. Like the home run ball got him, I think, more similar to when he was in Boston in 2021. So we're going to be looking for Perez to perform like he did in 2022, get back that 196 inning, 7 Ks, two-ish, 3-ish walks is about average. Actually, it's pretty good for him, lower than before. But especially the home run ball, he needs to get that under control, and I think he'll be fine. Like I'm predicting the Pirates will give him some run support, so he should be okay. Like, and these predictions are probably pretty close to what he's going to be. But if he could be under 4, that would be ideal for them. So I just feel like, yeah, if he's under 4 ERA, then yeah, Pirates are going to have a good season. And on their injury list, they have some prospects and a few pitchers. Looks like they're all going to be probably mid-season, late, or maybe even not at all. Some of these guys are actually 27. Okay, yeah, probably mid-season. So no one too important, but And looking at their organizational details, they let go of 2 guys. And they have quite a few prospects that are going to be ready to go if they're not already ready. They have Paul Skeens, Tremar Johnson, Quentin Priester. So these guys I would expect to be ready soon. Johnson probably a little bit away, but if you see at the bottom, they have Mike Burrows. He's going to be ready. So, they might bring up some prospects later in the year. We'll see. And then the rankings, you can see their bullpen was actually not that good, but I'm expecting this to improve by a pretty good margin. Starting pitching hopefully will improve a little bit because they did add some pitchers. And they're hitting, hopefully with O'Neal Cruz in the lineup, it's going to improve like a lot more than it is right now. Like, I'm expecting them to be maybe in the low teens or mid-teens, hopefully, like, 15, 16. And then for the relief pitcher, I'm expecting them to be outside the top 10, like 11, 12. So my prediction for the Pirates is, unfortunately, last place, but it's a respectable last place. A last place of 78 and 84. And I think that's pretty good. I don't know if they're above 80 wins. If they have all good career seasons, they could have above 80 wins, but I think with the current state of their lineup in the back end, and then of course the rotation on the backside, I just think having a good bullpen isn't enough. Like, you need offense, you need other players, you need other position groups to step up, not just one position group. I mean, you can survive with a great offense, but I don't know if their offense is great. It's okay, but it's not great, right? So yeah, that's the Pirates. Moving on, we're going to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals, who last year went a surprising 71 and 91, 21 games behind the Brewers in first. So the Cardinals lineup is Brendan Donovan, Paul Goldschmidt, Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras, Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, Tommy Edman, Mason Wynn. So the lineup hasn't changed dramatically. They haven't made any additions or anything like that. All these guys were here last year or the year before, and they, their lineup. It's been one of the better lineups in the league for a long time. So unsurprisingly, their unwillingness to add anybody is not surprising, but because they don't usually add a lot of people, they're not big on free agency and all that. So yeah, I like their lineup. I mean, it's obviously, I think everyone underperformed as like a rule. Everyone pretty much underperformed what they would usually do. So you can expect them all to bounce back, and I think they'll be fine. But looking at their bench, we have Ivan Herrera, Matt Carpenter, Jose Furman, Dylan Carlson. I like their bench. Nothing too crazy. Carpenter's good for a pinch hit. And the rest of the guys, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. They should be fine. The lineup's pretty solid. And then the player I want to highlight is Nolan Arenado. So Arenado, he's known for his defense at third base, like 10-time Gold Glove winner. But his offensive season was pretty disappointing. I mean, when you look at these numbers, he's like 30, 40, more than 50 points down on some of these. Like, compare 2022 to 2023. This is what I'm talking about, with the players all being way below average, right? 293 average in 2022, 266 this year, 358 on base in 2022, 315 this past year, 533 slug last season in 2022, 459 this year, 381 WOBA, 327 WOBA, 150 weighted runs created plus, 107. So like, yeah, he obviously had an off year. Like, you could see his weighted runs created plus, like his overall like hitting value has just been pretty consistently near 120 or maybe 112 in there. But like, in obviously not COVID season notwithstanding, that he played 48 games. No one cares. All right, but excluding that one in his rookie season, like, he's been consistently above 100, which is average, and he's been above average every season. This is his worst offensive season since 21, or if you want to even argue, 2014. He was like second year guy. But so, and I think he's gonna bounce back, and the predictions look like they are showing that he'll bounce back. Like, he's gonna be closer to what he did in like 2021 or 2022, hopefully. Yeah, let's see his home runs. He did 26 home runs. They're predicting for like up to 28, 23, 24. I think he's gonna swing back towards what he usually does. And I like Arenado as a player. He's really good on defense too. And on the pitching side, they have Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, Steven Matz. In their bullpen, Ryan Helmsley, Giovanni Gallegos, Jojo Romero, Andrew Kittredge, Kenya Middleton, Andre Palante, John King, Ryan Fernandez. All right, so I like their pitching staff. They did add a bunch of pitchers, actually. Their rotation is mostly new. Only Michaelis and Matt's return. And I like the additions. Gray's always been a good ace. Gibson and Lynn did struggle last year a bit, but Gibson has been really good the past few years, so he's been serviceable. Definitely a good option at 3. And in their bullpen, they added Kittredge, Middleton, and Fernandez. Fernandez is a Rule 5 guy, so he'll have to be on the roster the whole season, or he goes back to the Red Sox. And then, so with Kittredge and Middleton, these guys figured something out, and they were really good last season. So you're expecting to get some good pitching out of them, because their bullpen's always been kind of shaky at times. Like, I feel like, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but these guys should shore it up. And then, of course, in their rotation, you have Gray, Michaelis, Gibson, Lynn. I mean, I expect the newcomers to really kind of buoy, because that's where they really lost out a lot on. It's kind of similar to my Mets last season. They had DeGrom, Scherzer, and all those guys, but they all got hurt, so it kind of negated any benefit of having them, and the team kind of stunk. So it kind of happened similarly here. The starting pitching was not there last year for the Cardinals, and it tanked them. And hopefully with the additions to the bullpen too, that will be stronger. And I guess we'll see in the rankings. We'll see if I think they're going to improve or not. So I want to talk about Sonny Gray to highlight. Last season he spent in Minnesota. He did pretty well. 8 strikeouts per 9, 2 walks per 9, .3 home runs. His home runs have actually been pretty under control as of the last couple seasons, here last 2 seasons, especially in Minnesota. 2.79 ERA, he 3.69 xERA, 2.83 FIP, and he had a really good season actually. 184 innings, 8 and 8, not nothing too crazy there. But and then you see his predictions. They're gonna be predicting him to do high 3, mid 3s maybe, which is right about where he needs to be. If he does anything close to what he did last year, that's perfect. Like, can't even ask for more. Really, it's what you want out of your ace. So I like this addition. It's a good one. He's a good pitcher, and with the other additions they made, I think they're going to be better than they were last year for sure. Like, they're going to improve on this win total that they had, 71. They're definitely going to improve on it. And looking at who they lost Dakota Hudson, Jacob Barnes, Andrew Kisner, Ryan Tepera, Jake Woodford. Not a big deal, any of those guys. And then they have quite a few prospects that are ready to come up, looks like. So they probably should call those guys up soon. Mason Wynn's coming up. Saw him on the batting lineup. So yeah, quite a few prospects look like they're going to be ready. So they should call those guys up. And then the rankings, again, offense was kind of mid. I expect that to improve by a lot. They should be in the top 10 easily. Starting pitching, I'm expecting that to improve a lot. Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, all those guys are gonna really, they're gonna be in the mid, at least mid 15, 16. And then relief pitching, I'm expecting that to improve a little bit as well. Probably low teens, maybe high teens if they're really good, if they do really good. So as for my prediction, I'm gonna put the Cardinals at 81-81 in 4th place, just ahead of the Pirates. I think they could go higher potentially. They could have more wins, but I mean, 10 wins is a pretty significant jump. So we'll see what happens. On to the next team. The Cincinnati Reds went 82-80, 10 games behind the Brewers in 1st place in the NL Central. The Cincinnati Reds were a team last year that was actually surprising. They brought up a lot of young guys, and those guys performed really well. So, surprising record for them. No one was expecting them to really come out of nowhere, but they brought up the rookies, and they were really good. So that's exactly what happened. They got good performances, and we're expecting to see even more of that now. So the lineup looks like this: TJ Friedl, Matt McLain, Spencer Steer, Jeimer Candelario, Jonathan India, Elly De La Cruz, Noelvi Marte, Will Benson, Tyler Stevenson. I like their lineup. Obviously, Elly De La Cruz was the guy that really lit up the MLB last year. He was really good, could hit really well. They still have India, who he's been touted pretty highly. He's going to be more of a DH now. And they have Matt McLain, young second baseman, coming up. That's why India moved to DH. They brought in Candelario, who's good for, a great season almost every year. He always hits, always does well. TJ Friedl's been good. So I do like their lineup. I mean, it's more of like they didn't really add a lot. They added Candelario in the middle there. I'm unsure the order of the lineup. I feel like De La Cruz would be a little bit higher in it, but whatever. It's what do I know? So yeah, I feel like they would change up the order a little bit. Like you might, because what I'm curious about is we're gonna go over Matt McLain, and he's a really interesting case because they move India to DH in 5th, and they have McLain batting 2nd. So he better provide some pop or something there, like. And they have La Cruz batting 6th here. I don't know what Fangraphs is doing with the helm, but yeah, I do like their lineup overall. Like the end of it, we'll see if these guys are new, mostly kind of rookie, or not really rookie, but yeah, kind of rookie-ish guys. It's not Stevenson, but Benson, Marte, and we'll see how they perform. And on their bench, they have Luke Malley, Christian and Carson Strand, Stuart Farchild, Jake Fraley. I'm surprised Fraley's on the bench, actually. I thought he performed pretty well last year, and he's like a good power hitter. So a little surprised by that, but overall, I do like their bench. One of the better benches I've seen actually in this division at least. So Matt McLain, he just came up last season. He was in AAA the year before, even this past year, 2023. And as you see, when he came up, he hit 16 home runs in 89 games, had 50 RBIs, walked 7%, struck out 28%, pretty decent, not bad. And then he had a 290 average, 357 on base, 507 slug, 370 WOBA, 128 rated runs created plus. And he was obviously killing it in AAA, as you can tell. But I'm more curious about his stats over his projected stats, because they're pushing here around 20 home runs, 22 home runs, 70, 80 RBIs. You know, his best stat line here probably like 258, 340, 455. I mean, if he could do that, that's decent. I don't know if his home runs are enough to be in second, but he's definitely a decent enough hitter. So I'm really seeing how this kid's gonna plan out, because when you look at their lineup, like I don't know if he's gonna bat second necessarily. Like, is he gonna bat good enough to be second? Maybe, but I feel like you put the guys that are more proven up at the top, especially like Candelario and India, De La Cruz. Like, I think De La Cruz proved himself last year. So yeah, I'm just very curious about that. And in their pitching lineup, rotation rather, they have Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft, Frankie Montas, Andrew Abbott, Nick Martinez. In their bullpen, they have Alexis Diaz, Emilio Pagan, Lucas Sims, Sam Mole, Ian Gabbett, Brian Sutter, Buck Farmer, what a name, holy cow, Alex Young. So obviously Buck Farmer is going to kill it, clearly, that name, come on, man. So yeah, I do like the rotation. They did add Frankie Montas and Nick Martinez, which are two good pitchers. They were fine. I mean, they're fine. Montas has been hurt for a while, but he could pitch still. He could pitch. So and Nick Martinez was pretty solid for San Diego last year. I mean, he lacked the offensive output behind him, so I think the Reds are going to be pretty good offensively. And then in their bullpen, I like it more than their rotation, actually, because Diaz at the back, that's Edwin Diaz's brother, and basically the same kind of pitcher, same fastball slider setup. And then Pagan, Sims, Mole. I mean, these are all their bullpen was kind of average, but I'm expecting better performances because they all have more experience. A lot of these guys are pretty young, 2 years. So, you know, I'm expecting them to get a little bit better because of just experience-wise. And then Suter and Farmer are obviously going to be, I think they're going to be fine. Like, they're veterans. They should easily lead the bullpen. And the pitcher I want to talk about is Alexis Diaz. Now, he just came into the league a few years ago, and he's been pretty good, like pretty lights out. First season, very lights out. 11 strikeouts per 9, 4 walks, 0.7 homers per 9, 1.84 ERA, 3.32 FIP. So pretty decent first season, and he followed it up with a 307, 3.52 FIP, 11 strikeouts, similar metrics on the per 9s. And most importantly, he had 37 saves. So I expect if he can do something similar to what he did last year and maybe even a little better, that's going to be great for their bullpen. They can close out games with their probably pretty decent offense. Even if their bullpen is kind of mid and their starting pitching isn't like the greatest, I think with their offense, they could easily win games. Like, it's not going to be that hard. So I think their biggest loss will be Renfroe, in terms of losses at least. Probably Joey Votto, although he could re-sign, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Nick Senzel's a pretty big loss. But otherwise, I like what they've done. Harrison Bader, kind of a loss. But yeah, as you can tell in their rankings, they're pretty average they're pretty good on offense last year, and I expect them to be similarly good. And then, of course, their For the starting pitching, maybe just slightly better, I would say. Probably not amazingly better, maybe like high 20s instead of like mid 20s. But yeah. And then in their bullpen, I'm expecting them to actually improve in this. I think they're going to go up just a little bit. And as for their prospects, a lot of them are already up and playing. So, I mean, they have even a few more waiting. So I feel like they should just bring those guys up and try them. All right. Like, why not? Why not? So for the Reds, I'm predicting them to be 82 and 80, just above the Cardinals in third place. I was having a really hard time with this because, as you see in our next team, Cody Bellinger signed with the Cubs. So it really changed my order around, and it kind of just jarbled everything up. I had a different order. I had the Cardinals in second, and the Reds in second, Cardinals third, Cubs fourth without Bellinger. But then I switched it because Bellinger makes the Cubs way better. So yeah, I could see this playing out a lot differently than I have it. And I just kind of went conservative and said, all right, I think the Reds will be they could win slightly more games than the Cardinals. Like, that's what I thought. So anyway, on to the next team. The Chicago Cubs came in second place in the NL Central at 83 and 79, 9 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers, just missing the playoffs. So the Cubs lineup is looking a lot better now. I didn't update it, which I will. Oops. So I know they have Mike Tauchman, Nico Horner, Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, Christopher Morel, Michael Busch, Yan Gomes, Nick Madrigal, and they will have, instead of Tauchman, it will be Cody Bellinger. So yeah, Cody Bellinger joins the Cubs lineup, and he signed recently, 3-year deal with a couple opt-outs, and I think this moves the Cubs up dramatically. Like I was saying in the last team, in the Reds thing, I had the Reds second, and then Bellinger signed, and I was like, well, I don't think that's going to be the case. So with Bellinger in the lineup, I obviously like the Cubs lineup a lot more, and I'll have the updated graphic for you guys, but I don't have it in front of me. So yeah, I really like this lineup with Bellinger. I think the Cubs really went last year, and they could do even better. And looking at their bench, they're going to have Tauchman on the bench, along with Miguel Anaya, Miles Mastrobuoni, Patrick Wisdom, Alexander Canario. They'll probably replace him with Tauchman or something. Anyway, and then so basically, I do like their bench. Wisdom's a pretty good hitter on the bench. I mean, he's a pretty good power hitter on the bench, so expect him to give you some good at bats. And the other guys are, they're okay. So overall, yeah, their lineup is great with Bellinger. It really he adds like almost everything to it. They have good players surrounding it though too, like Suzuki, Swanson, and we're gonna talk about Busch. Michael Busch is a guy they got from the Dodgers. He's a prospect, he's a prospect still, and he's a first baseman, right? So yeah. He's a first baseman. He came up last year for the Dodgers. He played 27 games, 81 plate appearances, 2 home runs, 7 RBI. Not many at bats to go off of, but when you look at his AAA, he absolutely murdered it. I mean, 618 slug, 431 on base, 323 average. The guy went off. He had 98 games. He had 27 home runs, 90 RBIs, 18% K, 13% walk, pretty good eye. So yeah, he's gonna be really good, and as you can see the projections, they're projecting him to be around, like, the best one is 243 average, 325 on base, 427 slug, and 327 WOBA, 105 weighted runs created plus. So that would be an amazing season for him if he could do that, and I think he's gonna hit higher too. Like I feel like he's too low in the lineup, man. Like, if this guy can hit like he's supposed to, he's gonna hit a little bit higher, like a little bit higher than some of these other guys. But we'll see. He's supposed to be really good. So yeah, onto their pitching. They have Justin Steele, Jameson Taillon, Shota Imamaga, Kyle Hendricks, Jordan Wicks,
And then in their bullpen, they have Albert Alizé, Hector Neris, Julian Merriweather, Drew Smiley, Mark Leiter Jr., Jose Cuas, Yency Almonte, and Javier Assad. I really like the rotation, especially with Imamaga. I think that was a really good addition. They did lose Marcus Stroman, which kind of sucks, but I think I think Steele and Tyone got this at the top of rotation, and then Amaga's he's gonna do it. He's gonna do good for them because if you look at Senga and other players that come over to pitch, like he has less expectations than some of the other guys like Yamamoto and all those guys. So I mean, he can just show out, right? If he shows out, if Steele can be the guys he's been the past few season or two, and Tyone can find it again. I don't see any problems with the rotation at all. It's just the back end might be a little weak, but it's fine. You can deal with that. And then the bullpen, I really like it actually. They were pretty decent last year, I think. We'll see. Alze and I think Neris is going to be a game changer. We'll talk about him in a sec. Merriweather, Smiley, these guys are pretty good. I think Smiley could start too. He started in this pass. And some of these other guys have been pretty decent too. So, yeah, overall, I do like it. Not as much as maybe some other teams, but yeah, I like it overall though. And then talking about the added Hector Neris from Houston and from Philly before that, and obviously he found something. Well, I don't know if he found something in Houston, but he was good in Houston just as he was everywhere else. Houston was able to get his walks way down to 2.3 per 9 in 2022, which is crazy. He doesn't really allow home runs in the past few seasons. Gets a lot of strikeouts, 10 strikeouts per 9. 1.71 ERA, 3.35 xERA, 3.83 FIP. So, he had a pretty good season. He appeared in 71 games. So he pitched a lot actually the past 3 seasons. So he's been in heavy use. So we'll see how he does this year, if he can keep it up. I think he's probably going to regress a little bit because he did have a really, really good season. So we'll see if he can do the same thing. You see the projections are not kind to him. It looks like they're predicting him to kind of have a sloppier season, which, I mean, if he keeps his walks down, that's going to help a lot, and his home runs. But I wonder where they're getting that home run rate from. That's crazy. Like, that's not what his career, I guess it is kind of his career. Houston was kind of like an outlier, I guess. So, yeah. I do like the addition, though. He has been a great pitcher for a long time. Well, for quite a few seasons now consistently. So he had those 2 years where he wasn't so good. One was COVID and one was 2018, which was just like a random outlier. But he did have 14 strikeouts per 9 that year. So anyway, moving on to the Cubs organizational details. They did sign Cody Bellinger. They lost Stroman, which hurts. They lost Barnhart, which probably hurts a little bit. Eric Hosmer retired. Trey Mancini went to the Marlins. And Candler went to the Reds. We just talked about him. So, yeah. And they have a lot of good prospects coming up. Wicks is already there. Pete Armstrong is supposed to come up this year. So, yeah, he's from the Mets. He's going to be really good. Yeah, they're going to have some good players coming up soon. And those guys will be like reinforcements. So, if something doesn't work out, they have some guys to call up. Now, when I was saying last year that Cody Bellinger makes their lineup, I mean, this is why. Look at their hitting. It's really good. Like, the home runs are a little lacking, average a little lacking, but on base 6, OPS 8th, runs 6, stolen base 8th. So, pretty good. I expect them to be similar, maybe even a little better. And then starting pitching, they need to improve their hits and their Ks. Like, they didn't have a lot of Ks. But this is also because Stroman is more of a ground ball pitcher. He pitches to contact, so it's kind of understandable. I think they're gonna improve though, because Steele and Tyone and Imamaga they're gonna be good. So and then Wicks, he should also be good prospect. And then for their bullpen, I don't know if they're gonna be in the top again, but we'll see if if these guys can repeat the performance what they did last year, then yes. If not, then maybe not, but we'll see. Overall, I do like what they did with their team, and overall, I like their team, and I think they're going to win a lot of games, especially because their offense is going to carry them. They might struggle in the postseason because pitching depth isn't exactly there, and their bullpen isn't like the best ever, but so for the Cubs, I'm going to put them at 86 and 76 in second place behind the Brewers and above the Reds. Now, I could see this working out to be the Cardinals are closer to the Cubs than the Reds, or the Reds are closer to the Cubs, or, you know, I could see either the Reds and Cardinals jumping the Cubs if they don't perform well. So, you know, we'll see what happens as the season goes on. Yeah. On to the next team. The Milwaukee Brewers went 92 and 70 in first place in the NL Central last season. Their lineup is looking pretty good, and they did lose some key players too, but they were pretty good last season. They got in the playoffs. They lost, unfortunately, so we'll see if they can run it back. But I like what they did with the additions. Even though it wasn't many, they still did some pretty good additions. So their lineup is looking pretty good. Christian Yelich, William Contreras, Sal Frelick, Rhys Hoskins, Willy Adames, Garrett Mitchell, Jackson Chourio, Bruce Turang, and Joey Ortiz. Now, I like that they added Rhys Hoskins. I thought he was a really good add. I really love that addition for them because he gives them like that good power bat in the middle of the lineup. He hits the best in fourth. If you watch my video on the channel about him in his addition. And then obviously I think the question marks lie after Willy Adames, Garrett Mitchell, Chourio, Turang, Ortiz. Like, how are these guys gonna play out? Like that's the question marks for them. Like the top of the lineup is looking real good. I love it. The bottom, I'm not sure. And then as for their bench, we have Gary Sanchez, Jake Bauers, Andrew Monasterio, Joey Wiemer. So these guys, you know, I think Wiemer and Bauers might have been starters, or actually Wiemer started from last year. So, and Sanchez, he's a good hitter. He'll be great in the lineup, especially, you know, subbing in and out with Contreras, and then or pinch hitting, and then, you know, the other guys we'll see. Wiemer, he was a serviceable outfielder last year. So yeah, I like their bench overall. And the player I want to talk about is Rhys Hoskins, because this guy can hit the ball real well. So if you look at his home run totals, you know, close to 20 home runs every season except for COVID, or close to 30 rather, closer to 30 than 20 really. And except for his first season in COVID, you could basically butter knife it and say basically 30 home runs a season. He's gonna produce. He's gonna give you hits. He strikes out a little bit. He walks. You know, he walked more earlier in his career, but he does get a lot of hit. He does get a lot of home runs, which is what you want. 246 average, 332 on base, 462 slug last year. Not overall, or rather 2022. Not overall his best season, and also he got hurt last season for the whole year, so that he didn't play at all last season. So he's gonna be pretty fresh, but when he's really on, he's more around like 500 slugging, and, you know, 127 rated runs created plus, 122 last season, 139 the season before that. So yeah, this guy is gonna be good. And once again, the projections are kind of predicting him to be like right around the 30 home run mark, close to it, or if not over it. It looks like his best projection is going to be 240, 332, 465, 343 roller, 115 rated runs carried plus. I think if he could do that, that's going to be pretty decent. I would almost like it to be closer to 500 slug probably, because yeah, he needs to get at least 30 home runs in order for this Brewers team to really like fly, because they're, unfortunately, that transitions me into the pitching, which they did lose a few pitchers. Unfortunately, they lost Woodruff to injury, and they lost Corbin Burns to a trade with the Orioles. So they got Freddie Peralta, Wade Miley, Jacob Junis, Colin Ray, DL Hall, who they got in the trade for Burns, and then they got Devin Williams, Joe Piamps, Trevor Miguel, Hobby Milner, Abner Uribe, Tyler Clark, Brees Wilson, and Joe Ross. So overall, I think their pitching got a little bit weaker than it was because it felt like before they had such a dominant pitching rotation, and they traded like Corbin. Woodruff re-signed, but he got hurt just recently. So yeah, it's tough. So Peralta is probably their best pitcher. He's actually in contention. He'll be in contention for the Cy Young, I think. From what I'm seeing, he's probably gonna be, because he's been under the radar for a while, like just in terms of how well he's pitched and how good he is at it. And now he's gonna be the ace. It's like, yeah, he's gonna be in contention for Cy Young. And then Wade Miley, Jacob Junis, Colin Ray, these guys are all okay. If they can give their career best performances, that's gonna be better for the Brewers. They're gonna need it. And then DL Hall is the guy they got from Baltimore. We're gonna talk about later. And then in their bullpen, I'm not really sure what we have. I mean, all these guys have been good in the past. So if we're expecting the best season possible, I think they'll be okay. Williams at the back is a certain, like, you're not gonna blow the save. You're not gonna lose the game if you're winning. But before him, I'm not sure how good they can really be. So we're gonna see. So DL Hall, he has a long journey in Baltimore to get to the MLB. Gets there in 2022, plays 11 games, 1 start, 13 innings. And he gets there again in 2023, gets 18 games in the bullpen, 19 innings. You know, not bad. 3.26 ERA, 3 FIP. You know, not bad. So we'll see what he can do. They're projecting him to be around like 3 or like 4 under, little under 4 basically. Which I like this guy. If he could do 3.63 or 3.75, you know, and not give up too many home runs, not give up too many walks. He has to get his walks down for sure. Like, that's gonna come with time, but if you get down his walks and he can, you know, keep his strikeouts high, 10, 11, he's gonna be fine. Like, he's fine. So yeah, I'm expecting a good breakout season from him to really show what he has. He's gonna be starting, so you know, we'll see. And of course, they have Woodruff on the injury list. He had an injury on his shoulder, and he's gonna be out for a while. So if he comes back mid-season or so, or end of the season, like, that could really bolster them at the end. We'll see. He's obviously a big loss, and with Burns leaving, it's like, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do about the pitching, but hopefully they'll get some good performances out of guys they weren't expecting. And then they lost a lot of players: Victor Caratini, Brian Anderson, Andrew Chafin, Josh Donaldson, Darren Ruff, Luke Voigt. Some of these guys are even unsigned. They could re-sign these guys still. So they have a few prospects coming up. They have Troyo already up. They have Ferro. They have Uribe. I guess he's a prospect. So yeah, they have some guys that are already up, and so we'll see how they do. Hopefully they get some good stuff out of them. Now, I'm expecting Hoskins to improve their offensive performance, like 24 ranked home runs. I'm expecting that to go up to like mid-teens or high teens. OPS will go up with Hoskins. I think he's going to improve the power numbers. And then starting pitching will go down a bit, unfortunately, because they did trade Burns and they Woodruff was hurt. So yeah, that's going to go down. Bullpen probably going to go down as well a little bit. But nonetheless, I think they're going to still be good. I think they got enough offense to carry their team, and their pitching is just good enough to carry the team to the point where I think that they're not going to be too far off from where they were last year. I think they're going to be at 91 and 71. They were 92 and 70. So I just gave them one game down because they did lose a lot of players to injury, to trades, whatever. So, but they did also add. So it's like it kind of balances out. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for the NL Central. The next will be the AL Central. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.